Welcome to the Strategy Sherpa Show, a series of organic discussions between hosts David Chavez and a variety of notable business leaders centered around their most significant failures and how they handled those challenges, so listeners can learn from their most teachable moments and apply the lessons to their organizations. Now, here's your host, David Chavez.
Hey, everybody, this is David Chavez. Welcome to the Strategy Sherpa Show. And I have a great guest for you today. It's going to be really exciting. But before I introduce him, let's talk about a few things we have going on here at Church Strategy on the 8th of May in Portland, Oregon. We will be having a scaling up workshop. I think there's only like 1 or 2 seats left if we haven't already sold out. So you might want to get on the website and look at events, and it's assuredstrategy.com. And if you're interested in that, there's probably a few seats left. That was, I think, Thursday when somebody told me there were 2 seats left. So I'm not sure if those are still available. But on the 23rd of May, we have a free webinar of mastering process-driven tactics for cost savings, and Preston Law is going to be doing that. On the workshop in Portland and on the 8th, Ted Sarvata and I will be doing that. So really exciting. And then on the 13th of June, we will have Mastering Time Management by Lisa Jane Vargas, one of our people coaches, and she's going to be helping you understand how to manage your time a little bit better. If there's anybody disciplined with their time, it's definitely LJ. So she's a sort of a master at that. She's taught me a lot of good things about it too. So let me bring in a little bit of a quote before we get started here, Adam, and then I'll introduce you. I wanted to do a quote with Jim Collins. I'm a huge Jim Collins fan. I think I've probably read everything that he's written probably 2 or 3 times now, and some of them probably 10 to 40 times. And it's not because I'm stupid. It's just because I have to go back and read them because my brain's in a different place at different times, and the books have different meaning to you when you read them at different times. So his quote I want to talk about is, "What are the brutal facts that we must confront? Because if we don't confront them, they will confront us." And why I bring that in, Adam, on this morning, and I'll introduce you in just a second, is because, we're heading into a recession. Whether the federal government wants it or not, it's happening. And it's already started. And I've been saying this for probably about 5 to 6 months to clients, talking to them about, hey, the economic things are looking bad. It's going to start to downturn. So what are the brutal facts? Because the tide is going to roll out. What are we going to see when the tide rolls out? So in our company, so let's really start to think about those brutal facts and how we're going to deal with them as the economy gets hit a little bit. And all of us will probably be affected for some time in it in some way. So Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, David. Good to be here.
No problem. I mean, I'm really excited. You and I got to speak last week, and I think we had a half-hour phone call, and about 45 minutes in, we're finally ending the call. And I know you probably had something, and I had something else, and so, but it was worth the conversation. So, Adam Beary, you're from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
That's correct.
And tell us a little bit about your company, because you own a company there, and tell us a little bit about, tell us the name and a little bit about your company and you.
So, as David said, I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The company is Bear Process Safety. Little play on my name. I tried to get cute with marketing there, and that's worked out pretty good for us. So we're in the industrial sector here, and what we do is we help with a term called process safety, which is a risk assessment for chemical companies, basically making sure our chemical and petrochemical companies and partners here in the region are doing what they need to do to be compliant with our industry guidelines, their own corporate guidelines, and in the end of the day, reduce incidents and make our community and our employees safer. So we're somewhere in between the line of the insurance guys and then the hard hat guys. So technical safety, sort of from an engineering basis. I
Right.
grew up in a small town, went to Louisiana State University here in Baton Rouge, got a chemical engineering degree, started at a small firm. And as you and I spoke about it, 27 was just dumb enough after managing an account to not know what I didn't know. And I thought I knew everything about business. And so I started a business here in Baton Rouge, and here we are.
Yeah, I love it. So now we didn't talk about that you went to LSU. So I won't tell you who my favorite football team is then.
That's okay. I won't hold it against you. They'll be the number 2 in my heart. We can talk about it offline, but obviously, the side of my wall you can't see is people walk in and say, "Oh, you're a Tiger fan. You went to LSU." Okay. Uh, all the championships are memorialized here at the office.
I would expect nothing else from a true LSU fan.
That's right. That's right. From the day I was born, that was our field trips as kids, going to LSU, watching sports with my dad, my grandfather. Just a good time. And if you're from Louisiana, it's ingrained in you to start.
Yeah, my favorite team is Alabama. People ask me why, because I pretty much born and raised in Las Vegas, and I live in Austin now. But I've always followed Alabama just because my mom was born there. So it was one of those places where I just started watching it when I was young because she always watched the games, and so I just fell in love with the team. But every time I talk to an LSU person and tell them that, they usually want to X me out. So I try not to tell them, but anyway, we could talk. We could talk for hours for sports, but this is a business show, so we're supposed to be talking about business. But that is part of business in my world.
It's part of business. To be honest, it's been a huge part of my business. Honestly, the network here from LSU in our industrial sector is really help prepare. Maybe that's a topic for a different day.
Yeah, like you got introduced to me through one of our coaches, Warren Sager. Warren and you have known each other for quite a while, from what I understand. Is that correct?
That's correct. We've known each other a couple of years through some business groups. But here in Louisiana, that's kind of, especially in Baton Rouge, we're a small town feel with a city population, and LSU's at the root of that. You always feel interconnected, and obviously people like Warren, it's always kind of helping each other out in that business. Something I don't want to say unique to this region of the country, but definitely prevalent in this region of the country. So yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So you're a chemical engineer.
That's correct.
By trade.
By trade.
So you went to college. You got your chemical engineering degree. What happened after that?
So I started working for a small design firm here. We did what was called process engineering. So really just focused on that front end design. And the type of work that I do is on a cycle, right? So any hazardous chemical that is run in a facility, that facility has to be looked at every 5 years or every time they make a change. So the company I worked for kind of did a little bit of that work as a good revenue booster for them. But they really wanted to be a design firm, be in the trenches of designing equipment. It didn't interest me that much. Honestly, I wasn't quite as good at it. Maybe I attended too many football games at LSU in my design classes were lacking. But I really found a good kind of home in this region. It was super niche. You talked about Jim Collins, right? A quote from Jim Collins that said, "What can you be the best in the world at?" And I thought, I could be the best in the world at this. And I truly believe that Bear is the best in the world at what we do. So it's very focused. And I learned there was a whole world of process safety, not just a little bit of work I was doing at this firm. And there was not a company in our region marketing themselves as a process safety company. So I saw an opportunity in the market, and that's how I kind of got into it, almost stumbled into it, and sort of bulldog some early days. And we're here now as a 20-person strong company supporting some of the biggest chemical companies and petrochemical companies in the world all across the United States.
Yeah, that's very cool. So obviously you found this career and you sort of fell in love with it, really, because it sounds like you've turned it into something that's pretty good for you, and it's growing.
Yes, that's correct. So there was a marketplace for it, but it also was interesting. What really kind of tied my love into it is I got to work on a project with one of our big clients that involved people from all across the world. So we had technical experts from Belgium, from the Asian Pacific region. We had some engineering teams from our Houston office and some teams here right at the site. We helped design a plant from scratch. They were designing. I was kind of covering the hazard basis of it, and just the ability to learn about this project over 6 months, work with guys who had been in this industry for 40 years and their technical knowledge. It just was really pretty cool to kind of put that all together. And I was good at it. Sometimes when you're good at something, you gravitate towards it, right? Maybe that's in my earlier years, it was painting. My dad would say, well, you're not going to make much money painting. But this was something that I could really turn into a good business. It's something I love to do. I love to learn about processes, and I'm really good with people. Part of my job is speaking and facilitating these hazard reviews with big groups of people, and that's a challenge for some people, which was also not, hadn't been a challenge for me as long as I was a kid. So, yeah, got into it, really liked it, and we haven't looked back.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And so on the Strategy Sherpa show, one of the things we do is we talk about silliness that happened in our company. And I'll say silliness, but it's something we did. At the time we did it, we thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. We make these decisions. We try to gather as much information, try to make the most logical decision. You're a right brain person like I am, but it sounded like you had a little left brain activity going on with the painting. So that's great, actually. And but so everything comes down to really logic. And so on the Strategy Sherpa show, we try to take these decisions we make that don't turn out as well as we wanted them to. And sometimes they create a little bit of a disaster for us. And then we have to get ourselves out of them. And we talk about that, not to rub people's nose in it, but to really help them, help other people out there understand that mistakes are part of our game of growing a business, right? And so I would really love for you to share what yours is, and then we're going to take a break. Just share what it is for right now. We'll take a break and come back and talk about it a little bit.
So basically, yeah, we'll get into kind of the get rich quick scheme of the business, right? And what tools were going to work immediately, and it was going to be rolling for us, and I had to do nothing about it. That obviously wasn't true.
Okay, so what was the decision you made?
Made a decision to two different purchases to try to bring in new business. One was hiring this HR guru, safety guru who was going to get me in all these meetings. And on top of that, paid for this lead generation service of all these projects that I could get over the next couple of months. And it had all the contacts, and I was going to be the man with the game plan of what I was going to be working on.
All right, so we're going to talk about the HR genius that came into your company, the mover and shaker that's going to help you change the world. And then we're going to talk about the lead generation specialist that was going to rock your world with so many leads, you didn't even know what to do with them all. So is that a fair way of saying it? That's a fair way to say it, yeah. All right, so I just wanted to talk a bit about the quote you just made, because you had quoted, what can you be best in the world at? And when we're thinking about that, we're always thinking about these long-term things we're doing in our company. And so what can you be the best in the world at? And so what you're the best in the world at is looking at chemical companies and helping them with safety.
That's correct. Going through a process is called a hazard review. It's typically really lengthy. It's typically inefficient. It's typically super costly. We think our model provides not only the best service, best efficient, and best financial service, while still getting these guys quality product from, honestly, a young team.
Okay, Adam, we have to take breaks in this because this is a live radio show. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back in a few moments, everybody. This is Strategy Sherpa Show. This is Adam Beary and David Chavez here as your host, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
All right. Hey, everybody. This is David Chavez. It's the Strategy Sherpa Show. And I have Adam Beary here. And he's talking about his some great decisions he made, sarcasm. That ended up costing him. You know how I explain these mistakes, Adam, is like, you know how like when you were a kid and you got yourself in trouble, you maybe got a spanking. And I look at this like you may get a spanking from these mistakes, and the spanking's a little different. It's not with the switch or a belt or a hand or a swat on the rear. It is money flowing out of your rear, right?
Money,
it is
money leaving very quickly and not coming in.
Right. So, and I'm not sure which ones hurt more.
Yeah, I think it's the money. I definitely. I was the kid that would. I didn't mind that. That was fine. The money or the possession, I was like, man, don't take that from me. So
yeah, if you had really good parents, they would discipline you, but it really never hurt. But right. It was the matter of fact of discipline. But when you're in a business, that money flows out. So let's talk about your first one, because I love this the way you said it. You hired the HR guru.
Yeah. So in this region, and I learned that a lot. I talked about my LSU network. It's very network centric. I had people that I maybe went to school with and hung out with twice saying, when I started the business, they would call me and say, hey, you want a meeting with my plant manager? I can get you in, no question. So it's a very relationship industry and very relationship region, right? And I didn't know a lot about qualifications, and a lot of our partners, have this qualifying process of your insurance and your safety record, and I didn't know how to get in all these systems. And honestly, I knew some clients that I had worked with before, and I knew some people I went to school with, but I was finding people that I went to church with, the gym, the bank, anybody I could that worked at a plant. It didn't matter what they did. I was trying to generate leads at the time because we had no money. I already had an employee, and trying to get cash flow in. So I met this guy, not even sure how he popped in my radar. He was an older gentleman. He probably was had been in industry probably 20, 30 years and retired. And he was this claim to fame from HR perspective. He was going to get all those credentials together. He was going to, for procurement, he knew all these procurement people. We were going to get in this system, and I knew process safety, and that's what he was going to sell them. And he was going to handle everything and get me these meetings, and we were going to be knocking them out left and right. And, in a way, it was a little bit ego as a young engineer. I thought, man, my competitors, they ain't met a guy like this. This is a great idea. I can just get lead generation. I was busy writing procedures and going to do the work myself and trying to figure out ways to pay my VP. And I wasn't going to have to worry about lead generation. And so I was at a lunch with him at Walk-Ons, and I shook hands and signed the deal. And it was going to be $1,000 a month, and he was going to get me all these leads. And what it turned into was, every week I would get about 5 or 6 calls from him about plants, and I was kind of having to lead generate. Was that a good lead? Was it not a good lead? And he would set me up in some systems, and nice guy, but was old school. Hey, bring the sausage and boudin tray to the plant and of course I had to pay for all the stuff that he was doing and all the wining and dining the folks. And it dawned on me the first, or I think it was the third meeting, he introduced me to a plant, and he brought me into the office of the head of occupational safety. I saw her title, and immediately I knew. So I do process safety. For those who don't know in the weeds, those are 2 totally separate departments. And we sat down, and I told her, I said, yeah, so it's meeting. And I said, I don't think you're the person I need to talk to. And he was in the room. And I said, and she said, no, I'm not. And I said, oh, will you be willing to give me the information from the process safety register? She said, no. And I said, all right, well, I guess this meeting's over with. And that was when it dawned on me walking out that my $1,000 a month was not well spent. And we had signed a 6-month contract, and I had, once again, no money. So I was then scrambling to figure out how to get out of this situation.
Yeah. So your decision-making ability. So around this, you end up hiring this gentleman. What was the thing he said to you that got you to hire him, that had you hire him?
I think it was really the feeling of ease, right? And you know, having never started a business, you know, you mentioned you started a couple, and I know this, you know, every time you start something, or especially the first time you start something, there's just so many unknowns. And there's always that feeling of when you get up in the morning, I've got all these things to do, and what do I need to tackle first? And it just seemed so, you know, that was such a struggle for us when we first started our first client, BASF. I think I hounded the procurement people for 6 months. I was calling them on my trip in Punta Cana with my wife to try to figure out this contract. And I, you know, in my head, I knew that struggle, right? And I knew how tough that was. So he was selling me on this ease, even though I knew in the back of my mind that really the clients that used me a lot were based on my personal relationship. I guess I had convinced myself of him saying how smooth it was going to be, that he would do the same thing. He would be an extension of what I was doing. You know, I was only one of two of his clients. And so it wasn't like I was going to be competing for time. And he, you know, he did a good job, I think, as a salesman to kind of, when we talked, to make me feel comfortable and at ease with him. And he was likable. And I think in the end, what I learned from that decision was just, honestly, it was some patience to say, I don't, you know, even if I'd have got, like you mentioned earlier, but I got 8 clients, I mean, I didn't even have any employees. I had 1 employee. So how would we be done work for 8 engineers? But it was this feeling that everything had to get up and go, and really valuing going forward the relationship that I have with the staff that's been with me a long time, and clients who's been with me a long time, right? It's even helped me in generating, you know, we've had huge projects call, and maybe it's, you know, multiple millions of dollars, and we've turned them down to do the $30,000 project for a client who we think gets us and knows us and is a continual relationship, rather than a get quick item. So I will say that's what I learned a lot from that experience. In qualifying experiences in the future is, you know, if you're from South Louisiana, it takes a little bit of time to make a gumbo, right? You got to simmer it for a while. You got to really hold to it, right? My mom always, she makes jar from a roux. I say, or from a roux from a jar. I say, no, you got to make it from scratch. You got to chop up your fresh vegetables. That really was that experience with the business, right? It was trying to just freeze dry, fast, do it, and as we know, I mean, that's just not the way that it's going to be successful for long term for your business.
Yeah, that's it's great that you're saying this too, because I think you know, you and I talked about this a little bit. I shared with you our greatest problem selling is the coach that was there before us that promised something that was ridiculous to even promise to a client, and now they don't have trust in other people because they've been a little bit jaded by the process, right? So you have this guy come in, you're starting a new company, you're really excited, you're great at what you do, you know what you're doing, and then you end up finding out that he's not going to deliver what he said he was going to deliver, and you were trying to take the easy road, and you've realized. So what you go back to some of the things you were talking about, you realize that I have to, what is you had made the quote of like, what can I be best in the world at? Well, one of the things I have to be really great at when I'm doing this is really concentrate on the relationships of the people that I'm working with, and fostering those relationships. And there is no other way. There's no quick fix to this. You have to spend the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only is it in the sales process, it's in the work process. My job is literally to come into a company who makes billions of dollars and tell them that they are not doing what's the best interest for their employees and for our community, right? So that has to be delivered in a way that they're acceptable. If not, they're not going to make the changes. And by extension, I'm not going to make our community safer. So that relationship starts at the sales table, but it continues out throughout the work. And really, that was sort of another lesson learned from that is I'm not establishing that original relationship. Because a lot of times our sales process is not just with the procurement folks, it's with the engineering team, it's with operations, it's with the plant manager, the EHS manager. So if they're seeing someone else with that initial relationship, then I come in later. There's a lack of trust if I'm coming in just to do the work. They don't know me. They don't know what my background is. They haven't talked to me. So they're less accepted of the recommendations that we make as a company. And at the end of the day, does that make us some money? Sure, but it's sort of a more transactional relationship. I've had clients who continually call us, even let's say we did something poor from our standards of work, have continued to call us because of that relationship, because they know if we made a mistake, it was an honest mistake that we can fix because we care about them and we care about their company, comparative to someone brought us in and we're the hot shots in there. This is what we're going to do. And then if we don't quite deliver, and it could be circumstances out of our hands, it could be something. Maybe procurement didn't give us a purchase order until 3 days before the project. And then the project guy doesn't know that. And he might not care. He might say, well, my project needed to get done. And now it's a bad experience for him. Whereas if it's relational, it's more likely that he's like, look, something must have happened different because I know Adam, I know his team, and I understand what they put out. And this isn't like them. We've had that experience time and time again. And I think, honestly, I do attribute some of that to the gentleman that we brought in. It really learned a lot and is kind of in the back of our heads on that.
Yeah, I think that I love how you wound that up there, because I think that what you did is you took a negative situation, like the dealings with this gentleman, and you turned it into a positive learning experience. So at the time, it seemed like that money was flowing out of your pocket, that spanking was taking place, right? But what you've turned it into is a very good learning tool to help you understand how you have to approach selling your product to your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And really that lesson can be learned for everything. Now, we'll tell you, there's people I'm paying right now, vendors who I didn't learn the lesson good enough. So it's still a work in progress. But that lesson you can carry out throughout in engineers that you hire, partners that you work with, vendors that you hire. It's really the understanding of the quick fix. If they're thinking about it that way, if they're thinking they're going to come in and hit the grand slam on the first pitch, in your heart of hearts, that's not going to happen. So that should tell you already about the character or maybe the mindset of the person that you're bringing in.
Well, let's talk about this on the other side of this break. And we're going to take a break again. This is a Strategy Sherpa Show. This is David Chavez. We'll be right back with Adam Beary.
Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey, everybody, this is David Chavez. This is Strategy Sherpa Show, and we're back with Adam Beary, and he is talking a little bit about his company and some of the great decisions he made early on that really probably cost him a little bit of money, but taught him valuable lessons as he scaled his business. And Adam, so you went over the first one. We had the HR guy that's going to come in and change your world overnight. So we had another one that you had stated. So the lead generation, help us out.
Yeah, so I got a call from a company actually in Houston, and they said, hey, and I always prided myself on, you're going to find these gems in the rough, right? And so a lot of times I would take these meetings, people would call me about their product or their whatever, and I'd listen to them. And, sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. And somebody called me and they said, hey, we do a lot of work in what we would call continual work, right? So like I mentioned earlier, every 5 years, Shell's got to review their process. We do a lot of work for them. One of the spaces we've not done a ton in, but I've done a couple of big projects, was in the capital world, right? So somebody wants to do a big $1 billion expansion, they'll come out and they're going to do the work. Well, one thing that is a little unknown is once someone's announcing a project, my work has already been done, right? So we needed a way to find out about these projects early, or at least I thought so. And I thought, man, we'll get these huge projects and we'll just grow that much quicker, and this will be a great idea. And so this firm called me and they said, look, we want you to show us, we want to show you our program. Their program had all of the turnaround and capital projects for the region for the next like 6 years. It had all the contacts you needed to know in it, and who they were, and they would help us make those contacts. So it was a little bit of cold call-ish, right? You'd say, hey, I got your number, and I know that you got this project coming up, but I think we could help, and we want to be part of the bid, and those sort of things. What sealed the deal is I called a good friend of mine who's been in business development and contracts for about 30 years in industry. And he said, oh, that's a reputable company. That's pretty, yeah, there's some guys I know that use that company and all that. And so I said, great, let's spend it. I think it was maybe $10,000. I said, but we're going to generate enough business to cover that immediately. And I set my sales team of me and somebody else to looking at it and going through all these demos, and then put it on the shelf, right? So then when the pipeline was drying up, I said, oh, let's go to our lead generation. Went to lead generation. The first project I went to was for a company I knew. So I said, man, this will be great. I already know this company. I hadn't heard about this project, but I know the guys who are on it. And I looked at the contacts, and the first contact I looked at was for a gentleman who I'd worked with who no longer even worked for the company. And then the next contact I went down the list, he didn't work for the company. And the next contact, she didn't work for the company. And I realized I didn't have any contacts from this project that actually still worked at the company. So obviously I lost faith really quick in what it was providing for us. And I think in the year that we had it, they tried to get us on the second year. I don't think we ever generated a single project from the program. So.
That's so aggravating to hear, because I know there's a lot of great lead generation companies out there. And again, here you're at this place where you're hiring a consultant to help you, who's basically oversold you on their ability to help. They had all the bells and whistles and the flashy signals, but they didn't have the substance to really deliver what you needed. And the shame about this is, it's like this taints our the way we look at things going into the future, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it basically told us for at least a time being, we'll never, hire this again. We won't have something like this again. Now, there may be one day we get a chief of strategy and he says, hey, we got to get one of these. And I know sometimes they're inaccurate, and we just got to fight through that. But you're right. It definitely put this idea that this is not the fix. It's something for us to manage. We don't have a person to manage it or have time to do it. And so you revert back. And sometimes you revert back to things that maybe aren't efficient either, or a great way to do it. But you're kind of like then guarded because you don't want to waste that money, or you don't want to have to fix this issue again. And so that's sort of what we ended up doing. Now, I did sort of learn from that. I said, okay, well, what's the opposite? And I said, well, I need someone personal. I need to have an approach, and this is how we should approach all of our current clients, to lead generate through them. And really, that was the root of the problem, right? I didn't have a great way with my current clients to not just say, what work do you have coming up, but what work does the company have coming up? What work are you hearing? Do you have anybody who works project management at the company that I haven't met yet that you think I should meet? So we took a more, I guess you'd say, manual approach, but it was calculated and strategic. And I think it was really off of the heels of the anti-bells and whistles software solution. So, yeah, it definitely had me guarded. Had a couple months where I didn't really do anything with our sales. And then we got to work kind of creating a new strategy on that.
Yeah, and I would tell listeners that this is a pretty common problem when somebody starts a business. I mean, you read all these articles in all these magazines how these people just start up a business, it grows really fast, and the next thing you know, you're a successful small business owner and you're turning away business. They make it seem this way, and you're trying to live that, and you're a little blinded about the questions you really need to be asking. And I think that one of the things people don't understand is I only have limited resources in my business, and I put resources into people, time, and money, right? And you could say people is time, but I like to separate the three things. I have limited resources in these three areas, especially as a business that's starting. And how do I utilize those time, money, and people? And because those resources are limited, and it sounds like you had discovered that, hey, we weren't doing some of the things we needed to do to make this successful because we weren't investing the people and the time that this money I was spending needed to go with it, right?
Yeah.
So it necessarily wasn't the lead generation company that was bad. It was that it didn't work at where you were at the time.
I think that's an important point of it as well. And it's something that really is visionary, CEO centric, right?
Right.
All these ideas and great ideas I have, and sometimes thinking about, well, who's going to run this idea? Who's going to be the person that's in charge of it? And you're correct. I could have probably used that generator, used a strategy around it to say, and then I think this is the future of, what we do is to say, okay, we got a person, work with a strategy on them. How can they make that work for the best for the company? Obviously it wasn't sold that way, right? It was sold, hey, Adam, anytime you get on here, you just type a couple buttons, search, look how easy it is. But I think that's another important lesson to your point is any solution worth putting together, you got to figure out the people component as well. If you don't, it's sort of worthless. It's sort of, I've had all these endeavors of what things and great ideas a company can do. And sometimes you get those ideas from outside sources, right? We've all had the friend that we talk to who says, man, this is a really big hole in your business today. And a lot of times when that happens, especially if it's somebody we trust, we go to that hole immediately. We start plugging it up, right? But that might not be the big issue with the business, and it might not be something we have the time to do. I had a consultant tell me one time that our SEO was flawed. Our SEO for our website is flawed, but today I have more business than we have resources to take care of, and we have a personal marketing strategy that works pretty well. It doesn't mean I'm saying the SEO of the website is not good, a thing to worry about. It just means today I don't have a full-time marketing manager. I don't have the resources for me to put towards it. So to your point, I think this is a great example of that, is to say it was something that I needed to have because someone told me I needed to have it, when really at that point in time, I don't know if we needed lead generation other than somebody told us we did.
Yeah, I want to, gosh, what you just said is so very important. And it's such a hard lesson to learn. And I love that you learned this out of this experience. Your money was so well spent on this lesson that you got out of this. And it's one of those things that entrepreneurs don't think about, because you and I were talking about it on the phone. We don't have a lot of time left here, but we're professional squirrel chasers. We love to chase new ideas, right? And we love to bring them into our company. And I really have to sit back and think about all the projects that need to be done in my company and the limited resources I have to apply to those projects. And if I put 5 projects into my company at one time and I only have the resources to really do 2, I would be better off doing 2 than 5. And SEO can sit there and just suck for a while, right? And I have to be able to handle that mentally, but it's very hard for entrepreneurs because everything needs to work perfectly, right? That's in our minds. And it takes a little bit of discipline to say to myself, I'm not going to do that right now.
Absolutely. That's the
Right.
toughest thing. Everybody's telling you what you got to do. You're seeing it visually on social and how well everybody else has got it together. And sometimes leaving a hole out there is tough for an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I have salespeople hitting me all the time too, because I'm a smaller business too myself, even though we serve more small to mid-sized companies. I got them hitting me all the time. And we just engaged with one not too long ago, and it was 9 months ago we talked, and he goes, I just thought you were full of crap when you told me you'd get back to me. I go, listen, you sold me on the idea. I just didn't have the resources to apply at that moment. Right?
Right.
We were in the middle of some other heavy initiatives. So I love that you brought this issues up. I love your sharing today. I think that you really helped the audience with some really important things, especially for the companies who are starting up and trying to make all these decisions. There is no fast way to growth. It takes a little bit of time. You're going to make some mistakes, make those mistakes, and then learn valuable lessons from them.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, David. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you coming on, and I promise you not to ever hold it against you that you're an LSU fan.
Thank you. Thank you. I want vice versa, back and forth.
Well, you can say the same thing back to me, because you know you would. If we were sitting and having a beer right now, we'd be bashing each other just a little bit. All right. Well, Adam, hey, I'm so grateful to Warren for introducing me to you. I really appreciate you being on. You've been a fabulous guest and fabulous at sharing with the audience some of the lessons you learned. And you know what goes around comes back to us in the end. So I love that you took the time to share, because you've invested a couple hours in the show, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Have a great day. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey, everybody. This is David Chavez. I'm back, and this is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We just had a great guest. Adam Beary was talking about his business, and he was talking about a few great lessons that he learned. So the first thing he did in his company that caused him some issues is when he started the company, he decided to hire a consultant that came along his way and was going to introduce him to all the right people. And after his third meeting, I think he said it was his third meeting, he realized that this consultant was referring him to the people he knew, not the people he needed to meet. And so that was it wasn't a fit for him, and he ended up having a 6-month contract with this person, and this person didn't deliver probably in the first 2 or 3 months. I think he said it was over a couple months, and now he had 4 months left on this contract. This is why at Assured Strategy we have a 3 times return on your investment guarantee in the first 90 days. And this is where people put their money where their mouth is. Like, if this guy could really help and he could have really delivered, he should have gave Adam some kind of guarantee to help him and his business do what he said that he could help him with. And he should have gave some kind of guarantee to Adam, not charged him a 6-month no guarantee contract. that's sort of one-sided to the benefit of that person and not a benefit to Adam. So you should really pay attention to those types of things. Like when we get into a contract with a company, we tell them, like, in the first 90 days, if you don't see getting a 3 times return on your investment for the year, then just let us know and we'll give you your money back. And what we're doing is we're saying that, hey, we believe in what we're doing and we know what we're doing. We know how we can help companies. If you follow our program and you do what we ask you to do, and we're coaches, so we don't tell you what to do. We are asking you to follow what we're asking you to do. And if you do, then if it doesn't work, we'll give you your money back. That's a real thing for somebody to grasp onto. And still, it's going to cost them a little bit of money, because oftentimes people don't think about this when they're selling a product, that they have to accommodate that person also, because that person is going to spend people resources, time resources, and money resources on the project that you have them working on. And that's still going to cost them money. So it's not just the hard cost they're paying you, it's the other cost that they're incurring with you even being there. And I think that that's really important. And I want to go back to something Adam said at the very beginning, because he talked about this what you can be best in the world at. And I wanted to share this with you, because this is one of our tools in our company. It's the BHAG tool, and it's, what are you deeply passionate about? What drives your economic engine? And then this is what Adam said, was a quote by Jim Collins: what can you be best in the world at? Well, what I'm deeply passionate about is my purpose, why I'm here doing what I do every day. For us at Assured Strategy, that's guiding leaders through change to find their freedom. And then what drives your economic engine? What is your profit over X? Profit being your numerator, X being your denominator. And what is your profit over X? And what is the X, the widget you're measuring for your company? And this takes a little bit of time to discover. I'm not going to tell you mine, because some of these things are confidential to the company. But I would tell you that once you realize your profit over X, it really help you manage your cash flow and your profit. Like, there's an example I have of going into a client and working with that client, and this guy keeps on talking to me about his revenue. And I said to him, I said, hey, I really don't care about your revenue. What's your profit? And we end up starting to talk about his profit. His profit is about 5%. 5% profit is just right before you start to enter the bankruptcy or the going out of business realm. And I kept on talking to him, and I said, look, one of the things we have to do for you is get your profitability up, because you got to get rid of some of this debt you had. He had a little bit of debt, not much. And I said, you got to get rid of this debt, because debt is never going to help you in your business. And then we have to get enough cash reserves so that you can take advantage of opportunities when they come your way. And so when I was working with him, he ends up 2 years later, he had more than tripled his revenue, but his profitability went from 5 to 25%. And you're saying, oh, well, probably you're screwing your customers. No, we were just creating efficiency. There was some price raises there because there needed to be, but we created efficiency and we fixed some of the operational problems, which increased his cash flow significantly. So what drives your economic engine? How do you monitor your business to make sure it stays healthy and the cash is healthy? And then the last one is what you can be best in the world at. And this is the one Adam brought up. What I can be best in the world at is what my core customer, not all my customers, not my highest revenue customers, but my core customers need from me. And listen to the way I'm saying that. Not want, but need from me. So what I can be best in the world at is what my core customer needs from me. And a lot of people will think they understand this, but they don't really spend enough time on it. And from these 3 circles, Jim Collins in the center of this puts the hedgehog concept. And the hedgehog concept goes directly to the hedgehog knows one thing in the Good to Great book, where this hedgehog concept came out, and the fox knows many things, jumping from thing to thing. The hedgehog is the disciplined creature. And so when you're thinking about this and you're thinking about this hedgehog concept, you really want to think about it from that standpoint. And you want to think about it in the sense of I have to be disciplined. And I love one of Jim Collins' quotes around discipline. Discipline is the difference between what you want now and what you want the most. And so from the concentrics of these three circles, what am I deeply passionate about? What drives my economic engine, my profit over X, and what I can be best in the world at? Those intersection creates the hedgehog concept. Well, how I think about it is the hedgehog leads you to the BHAG, which the BHAG is your vision for your company or your long-term strategic goal for your company that's 10 to 30 years out, challenges you to greatness, reinforces your business fundamentals, and should really scare the hell out of you when you set it. So I love how he tied all this stuff in and how it ties to some of the things Adam learned. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and I love talking to business owners about their business and some of the failures they made, not to rub their nose in it, but really to share the learning that goes along with it. I hope you enjoyed our show today. I just wanted to remind you of a few things before we end the day. We have the Portland workshop on May the 8th. That's in Portland. Get on assuredstrategy.com. We have a few tickets left, I hope. And then on the 23rd of May, we have a free webinar with Preston, Process-Driven Taxes for Cost Savings. We're getting ready to head into a recession. You got to get your company in order before we get there. We're probably a month or two away if we're not already slipping into it. So I hope you get your house in order and get ready for it. Here at the Strategy Sherpa Show, we're here to help you. Thank you very much.